Welcome back to the Why of It All. This is episode 6. Gina and I have already been having so very much fun.
We have, and
Yeah.
lots of good talks.
Lots of good talk.
We
Listen,
always talk it out, don't we?
we do. And I would like to congratulate us on our epic, focused show prep last night. Gina came into town and stayed the night at my house, and we show prepped our butts off.
We did. Give me a hug.
Oh,
we did so good. I'm proud of us. We didn't realize, I think, how much work this was going to be. Right, Melanie?
Yes, I would agree with that statement very much.
But so worth it.
Yeah. So today we are asking a question: what story are you telling, and is it serving you? So today we want to talk about this whole concept of mindset and the stories that you're telling, and the way that the stories that you're telling, the beliefs that you hold, the internal monologue, the narratives that you're putting out there truly are affecting your reality. And this is a subject that is very near and dear to my heart. And I worked myself into a bit of an overwhelm last night, trying to find all of the exact right words and the way that I wanted to share this information. And
let's reword this. Let's say you're passionate about this subject.
I am.
You're so passionate.
Yes. And so I prepared a statement that I have whittled down quite a lot. That's half of what it was. And Gina has been instrumental in getting me to realize that I don't have to memorize this. I can just read it to you. That's okay. I'm allowed to do that. It's our podcast. No one's the boss of us.
We do whatever the hell we want on this damn microphone. And we're going to today. So
I'm going to set the stage here for this conversation. We're excited about this conversation. It's going to be really, really good. We got some good stories for you.
Oh, yeah.
So let's begin. What if the stories that you're telling are the very things keeping you stuck? And what if changing your mindset and the perspectives of your stories consciously and intentionally could shift everything? And we've all been there. We've been repeating old narratives about who we are and why we are that way and what is and what's possible and what's not possible and yada, yada, yada. But here's the thing. The thoughts that we think and the words that we speak are shaping our reality in ways that many people don't even realize. Most people are out there just operating on default, not being conscious of what they are projecting. So I want to start out with one of my best stories, one that really exemplifies how mindset alone can make the difference between a situation being a total catastrophe or an absolute blast. And this story I affectionately refer to as the donkey shit river story. And full disclosure, there are real donkeys and actual shit involved. So here we go.
Let's get into it.
In 2018, you'll remember, my mother and I took a Mediterranean cruise to the Western Mediterranean. And this cruise was an Abraham Hicks cruise. So it was with a very large group of probably close to 1,000 people. We were there for a personal development workshop that has a lot to do with law of attraction and all of that kind of stuff. And so we had been on this cruise now at that point for a little over a week. Everybody is vibing super high. We are all in this state of total alignment with joy and fun. And our mindset was just about as high vibrational as you could possibly get. We were really riding high the whole time. And one of the final ports of call for this cruise is Santorini, Greece, which I've wanted to visit Santorini my entire life. And so Santorini is this teeny tiny little island that is essentially the remnants of an extinct volcano. And when you pull up to the port side of the island, it's a sheer cliff. It's like 800 feet high or something like that. Or higher than that, whatever. I don't measure things. So the way that it works is the cruise ship comes into the bay, and you have to take what's called a tender boat that you get on, a little teeny boat, and it takes you to like the bottom of the rim of the cliff face. And for 2,000 years, the only way to get to the top of the rim was to hitch a ride on a donkey. up these switchbacks composed of 600 steps. It's like cobblestone paved switchbacks up the side of the rim.
Mm-hmm.
And then in the 1980s or so, somebody finally got around to building an electric tram where you can just hop on this little tram thing, and it just gets you right up to the top in about 5 minutes. And so when you get there on this little tender boat, you have a choice. You can take the donkey trail or you could take the tram. Well, of course, at this point, most people just take the tram. So we get up to the top, we spend the day doing some shopping. And we had heard from the cruise ship captain before we disembarked that they were actually expecting rain this day. Now, what's important to know here is that it hardly ever rains in Santorini. It's an extremely dry climate. And at this point, it had not rained in 6 months.
Mm-hmm.
So I want you to just imagine what happens when you have a trail that is got donkeys going up and down it all day, every single day, and it hasn't rained for 6 months. Now, of course, they're going to sweep the trail, but there's a lot of donkey excrement that gets
donkey shit
collected in the nooks and crannies here, right? Okay, so just keep that in mind. So us and everybody else who decided to visit Santorini that day, we're doing our shopping, we're having a good time, and then wouldn't you know it, the sky starts getting dark and we hear the thunder, and everybody on the island just makes out for the tram all at the same time. Normally you have people slowly trickling back to the cruise ship.
Okay.
But all of a sudden the whole island full of tourists is running for this tram. Everybody's about to get soaked, and the line is a mile freaking long. Well, the problem with that is that the cruise ship has a dedicated time where it is going to depart, and you better get your ass back to the ship before that happens.
Sure.
And so it begins to rain. There are, thousands of people standing in this line getting absolutely soaked. Nobody wants to take the donkey trail. And having been with my mother and this group of people, there was probably like 5 or 6 of us in that group, walking around that day in this incredibly high vibrational state. And we decided we're not going to stand in this line and just get soaked in the rain. We don't want to take a chance of risking not making it back to the ship in time. Let's just go down the donkey trail. It's downhill for Christ's sake.
Sure.
Right?
And you're already probably getting wet. You're already getting wet soaked.
It's downhill. We're going to beat all these people to the bottom. It's going to be no brainer. So we start making our way down the trail. And before long, we're about like maybe a third of the way down. The rain at this point has really collected, and it is beginning to rush down the switchbacks alongside us. We get about halfway down, and it has become a torrent of rainwater flushing 6 months worth of donkey shit down the switchbacks with it. We are at this point halfway down the trail, wading through ankle deep donkey shit water.
Oh.
And here's the thing. We were surrounded by other people who weren't part of our group, who were in a state of catastrophe, complaining. People were crying. They were falling on their butts. Absolutely miserable. The people up standing in line getting soaked were absolutely miserable. And me and my mom and our group that we were with were laughing our asses off. It was the most absurd situation any of us could possibly imagine ever being in. And what could we do except laugh at the absolute hilarity?
It's the best medicine. It's the best medicine in those moments.
We had so much fun. We couldn't believe this incredible experience we were having. We were just going on and on about this is going to create the greatest memory that any of us have ever had. We get all the way down to the bottom, lightning fast. We look up at all the people waiting up at the top, stressed out, anxious. They're going to not make it back to the ship in time, soaking wet. Our socks were soaked in brown donkey shit water, but we didn't care at all. It was hilarious. We actually loved every second of it. Even going down that trail, shoulder to shoulder with other people who were looking at the situation as the biggest disaster they'd ever experienced, utter catastrophe. We get down to the bottom, lickety split. We make it to the ship before anybody else. And we spent the next 3 days marveling at how extraordinary every moment of that was.
I love it.
And the only difference between our experience and the experience of everybody else was our mindset.
Mm-hmm.
That was the only difference.
Mm-hmm.
And to me, I look at that as this beautiful, perfect example of how you can have two people in the identical set of circumstances, and your choice and how you think about it and how you look about it and the story you tell about it can make the difference between catastrophe and absolute hilarious, joyful, memorable experience that is my literal favorite story to tell ever.
I love it. I love it. It's a perfect segue into our conversation today. So
So whether we're looking at the events and circumstances that manifest in our lives through the lens of vibration and alignment and law of attraction, which is where we were operating from at that cruise, or through the lens of basic neuroscience, which is something that we're going to touch on in the next episode, everything seems to be pointing at the same thing. Your mindset shapes your story, and that becomes your reality. So I'm going to keep reading here a little bit, and then we're going to get into just our conversation.
Yes.
Most people's default state of being is reactionary. Their emotional state is conditional on their circumstances. They're focused on what is or what was, or a projected future based on what is or what was. Right? Do you see how it's all creation by default? There's no intentionality in the thoughts that they think and the way that they look at things.
It's the program.
Oh, yes, exactly.
The program.
Everything happens to them. They are at the mercy of their circumstances in a state of reaction to. But if they knew the way things really worked, they would be a lot more intentional with the thoughts they think and the beliefs they hold and the stories they tell. Each of those is like a radio frequency, a signal being broadcasted out from us that tunes us to the experiences that match it. The signal is not fixed. It can be tuned as easily as you tune a radio dial. If you want to listen to 101 FM, you have to set your radio frequency to 101 FM. If you want to listen to 98.5, you got to set your frequency to 98.5. And if you're on 101.5 and you want to listen to 98.5, that's not going to work. You have to tune your frequency to what you want to experience. So everything that comes into your experience is a perfect vibrational match to the frequency that you're broadcasting. You're not creating through action alone, which is what most people are under the assumption of. You're creating through your thoughts, through your focus, through your beliefs. And the stories you tell are constantly reinforcing whatever frequency you're broadcasting. So if you're waiting for your conditions to change for you to start feeling better, you're going to be waiting a really long time. What you've got to realize is that you're living a conditional life where you need the conditions to be right for you to feel the way you want to feel. And that's backwards. It's not the way the mechanisms that create your experience actually work. You have to start telling the story how you want it to be, not the way that it is.
Make it in present tense.
Yes,
right?
exactly. You have to tell the story with the solution emphasized, not the problem. You have to stop complaining and start appreciating. And you have to explain it how you want it to be, not the way it has been.
Love it. Love it.
So this is a standard operating procedure that I have spent large portions of my life operating from and large portions of my life not operating from. You know, we have a tendency to build a certain set of habits, and then life happens and you forego these good habits that you've developed that have worked so well for you in the past, and it's sort of backsliding. And where I'm at right now is reestablishing old habits that I lost for quite a long time. And my life has dramatically shifted for the better in an incredibly short period of time, picking those old positive habits up of being mindful about the thoughts that I think and the stories that I tell and the perspectives that I take. So that's my jam.
Okay. Can we get into it?
Let's do it.
Okay, let's get into it. We're going to do a little Q&A with Melanie. So Melanie, what are some simple ways people can start identifying the limiting stories they've been telling themselves?
The first thing to do is to start paying attention to the stories that you're telling. Start paying attention to the self-limiting inner monologue
Mm-hmm.
to the conversations that you're having,
Mm-hmm.
the words that you speak, the stories that you're telling both yourself and others.
Mm-hmm.
If you don't even know you're doing it, you're not going to be able to change it. So the first step is to start becoming aware
Mm-hmm.
of what it is that you're saying and thinking.
Okay.
Those narratives are going to undermine your confidence, undermine hope, undermine potential, undermine
Mm-hmm.
progress, undermine growth.
Mm-hmm.
So getting control of them and understanding them is the first step.
I can speak on this because I know there have been several times I've been in therapy. I'm not currently in therapy, but have been over the last couple of years for different traumas. And I know, while I'm talking to my therapist, we're talking things out, and like he's like, we're talking about the week or the day or what I did that upset me or something that triggered me. And I remember I would go, I'm so dumb. I'm so stupid. I can't believe that I fell for this, or I can't believe that I stayed in this longer than I should have, or I'm so dumb for not seeing the signs, not seeing the things that were right in front of me. And he stopped me. He stopped me, and he's like, you realize you're just literally like criticizing yourself. You're talking really bad about yourself. And that was the first time that I was kind of like, God, yeah, I probably need to watch how I speak about myself, because even though you speak it and you go, oh no, I don't really mean I'm dumb or stupid. Because when I talk about it now, I don't think I'm dumb. I don't think I'm stupid, but those words are very powerful.
Yes.
And when you give yourself those negative thoughts about yourself, I'm not enough, or I'm stupid, I'm dumb, whether you know it or not, it's in there. It's in there. It stays, it sticks, and it's really hard to undo. I mean, I'm 49 and I'm still trying to undo some of those narratives and those words.
That was the perfect example. I was trying to come up with an example that I didn't have to, because you came up with the perfect example.
Yeah.
And so what also happens with that, we'll touch more on the neurophysiology of it, as you were just pointing towards. But what you're also doing is projecting that reality into the world.
Absolutely.
And what you are going to get, because like attracts like, thoughts are frequency, thoughts are vibration, and what you put out there in the form of thoughts and words, you are going to get life experiences that reflect it back to you.
Absolutely.
So what does that mean? It means you are going to end up lining up with life experiences that will continue to remind and reinforce for you how stupid you are.
And how dumb you are. And how, yes.
It could look like mistakes. It could look like someone else judging you. It could look like all of these things that are going to create a reaction within you that reinforces that point of view that you hold. Even if you don't really mean it,
subconsciously,
you're still projecting it out there.
Subconsciously.
Phenomenal example.
Yeah. Awesome. So Melanie, what's the difference between like being realistic and telling a story that keeps you stuck?
That's a really great question.
Yeah.
So I'll first I want to look at that word realistic. In my opinion, realistic is relative. Everybody out there is going to have a different perspective based on their unique life experience of what is realistic and what isn't.
Sure.
It's relative. Realistic also is something that is going to be based most often, whatever you've decided is realistic, is based on assumptions. It's based on past experiences.
Yes.
And it doesn't include the infinite possibilities that could potentially be. How many times have we had experiences in the world where we think it's going to turn out a certain way, and it turns out completely different and way better than you could have ever imagined?
Yes.
I think most of us have had an experience like that. So when you assume what is realistic and what isn't, you have cut yourself off in that moment from all of the infinite possibilities that you can't wrap your brain around.
Yes.
Right? So that's the first part.
Yep.
In terms of what's the difference between being realistic and telling a story that keeps you stuck, you can acknowledge what is. It's perfectly reasonable and rational to acknowledge what is, and then add a qualifier to the end of that statement. So, for example, I'm having a hard time. That's true.
Mm-hmm.
That's realistic.
Mm-hmm.
I'm having a hard time,
Mm-hmm.
but I won't be forever.
Mm-hmm.
My body is
Love that.
experiencing pain. True. Realistic. But I am in the process of healing.
Mm.
I'm not sure what to do, but I will eventually find clarity. You can acknowledge what is
Mm-hmm.
and still adjust your statement,
Mm-hmm.
adjust the thought, adjust the belief to the next best thought, to the better feeling thought from where you currently are. You can add that qualifier on the end of it, and you've changed the frequency you're broadcasting.
Absolutely. I have to bring up our texts to each other earlier this week, me and Melanie. I was struggling. I was having a struggle. Melanie and I are, each other's unpaid therapists. So when I am struggling with something really hard, I know who to turn to. I know who to call on. And so going back to the staying stuck, I'd send her this. We send audio messages to each other all day long. I don't know if anybody else does that, but there's only 2 or 3 friends that will allow me to send them audio messages because some people just don't like them, but that's how her and I communicate.
We've just got way too much to say
way
to
too
type
much
it
to
out
say.
into text.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It takes too long. And so I was really struggling, and I had sent her an audio message, and I was like, yeah, I'm this problem I was going through. And I'm like, yeah, I'm really mad right now, but in 3 or 4 days, the madness is going to subside. The anger is going to subside, and I'm going to get sad and I'm going to grieve. It's just, this is what I've been doing. This is the process, blah, blah, blah. And she sends me this text, and I have to read it verbatim because it's so good. It's just so yummy. It's so Melanie. And so I'd send her this text. Yeah, in a few days, I'm going to be sad. I'm going to grieve. That's just part of it. And part of the text, I got to get my glasses. She says, the pattern ends now. And she uppercase capitalizes ends now. She goes, you got this. She goes, all the patterns associated with this are just old gum you've chewed off the floor. That's
chewed all the flavor out.
Chewed all the flavor out. Oh my God. That you've chewed all the flavor out of. She goes, now you spit that shit out, you get to change the pattern. And then she sent the little strong arm with the smiley face. And so that really, I literally, because I asked her, I said, can you please text me that in text form so that I can save it? I saved the text because it's so true. This is exactly what we're talking about. We're talking about me telling myself already what I'm going to anticipate in a few days. Why do I have to stick with that story?
It's just a story.
And why can't I start a new pattern? Why do I have to repeat the old pattern that I've been doing for 3 years or however long? Yeah. So that really was that's what I needed to hear. That's gold.
It's one of my favorite analogies.
So good.
Because what happens is that here's what you didn't do. And I was really proud of you. I don't know if you caught this and acknowledged it.
What?
You didn't then go into judgment about the fact that you were almost about to repeat an old pattern.
I did not.
It's just old gum you've chewed all the flavor out.
Yeah.
It's an old pattern. It's an old story you've been telling again and again and again. Yeah. Okay, cool. Spit that shit out.
Spit it out. It was just such a good analogy. I was like, oh, please.
You don't have to get mad at yourself about it. You don't have to stay stuck in the pattern.
No.
Just spit that shit out and choose a new choose a new thought process. Recreate something different.
Yeah. And so I literally saved that text. I put it in my notes, and I've read it a few times this week, and it's helped me. It's helped me to tell myself today's a new day. I have a choice every day to make a new decision about today. And it felt what's the word? Liberating. I'm oh wow, why can't I give myself that permission to just not repeat the old stuff that I've been repeating? Yeah, I can choose different.
But there you just did it again. Why can't I?
Yeah.
You can.
You can.
You just got to stop saying shit like that.
Right.
I'm really swearing up a storm here. Sorry, guys.
That's okay.
I'm going to work on
this
that.
This is not G-rated. This isn't a G-rated
My
podcast.
9-year-old is my language police. And if I swear in the house,
police.
She writes me a ticket on a Post-it note and sticks it to my chest. So it's a thing I'm working on.
And if I say shit, she calls me on it. So.
Anyway. Not me, the 9-year-old.
Oh, yes. Sorry. Yes. Her 9-year-old does. So Melanie, this is a good question. How can someone reach for a better feeling thought that actually feels believable when they're really at a low point? Like how can they reach for that better feeling thought when somebody's just like, again, those negative words, the dumb, whatever.
This is really important because there's so many people who have tried to change their thought processes and using tools that everybody knows about by now, like affirmations and things like that. And there are many cases where affirmations are very, very helpful. But the problem is that most people try to take too big a leap in their emotional state and their thought habits. Just from where you are, reach for the next best feeling thought.
Example.
Some of the examples I gave just a moment ago. My body hurts, but I'm in the process of healing. If you try to go from my body hurts to I am well and wonderful and I feel amazing, you're just going to get pissed off. You don't believe that? You can't get there from there. It's too big of a leap. And if you cannot possibly believe what you're putting out there, all that's going to do is create frustration within you. It's just going to piss you off. So reach for the best feeling thought that you can actually find. Don't try to reach for the best feeling thought anybody can ever have. It's too big of a leap. If your life isn't sunshine, rainbows, and lollipops, and you try to pretend that it is, you can't get there from there. It's not realistic. You won't be able to actually take that step up the emotional ladder. It's going to feel like you're faking it.
And access it. Okay.
So you can, however, reach for that better feeling thought from where you're at. It takes a little bit of practice. It's a muscle that you have to build. But it turns out that the better feeling thought most often is actually accurate. If you're willing to let go of the fixed point of view you already have. So like if you have been operating from I'm sick. The story that I'm telling is I'm sick. I tell everybody about my diagnosis. I tell everybody about how shitty I feel. I tell everybody all the time about all of my symptoms. And that's where you've been operating. That can all be true. And you can reach for the next best feeling thought, which is I hurt, but I'm in my healing process now. That's real. And it's an actual true statement. If you're willing to let go of the fixed point of view that you've been holding on to the whole time, if you're willing to then be flexible with your mindset, you can get to there. That's an easy step to take. And then over time, as you begin to build that muscle of reaching always for the next best feeling thought, it becomes easier and easier and easier, and you can reach farther and farther. And you can apply it to all different aspects of your life, all different moments of what you're going through. It does require practice. It does require building the muscle, but after not too long, it becomes your default.
I think we have the same thought on it, Melanie. Mine's probably a little bit different than hers. Her explanation is the next best feeling. I am big on affirmations. I am huge on affirmations. I'm a yoga instructor. And so I don't know if I've said that before, but I do teach yoga, and I teach more calming, relaxing yoga nidra, restorative, to get into people's central nervous system, to calm the nervous system. And so if you've ever been to a yoga class, if you're a good yoga teacher, but if you like to set an intention for your students, or tell your students, like, set an intention, saying your sankalpa. Sankalpa is another word for heart's intention or heart's longing. And so, when you're laying there and I'm guiding you with my voice, I may say, okay, this is a good time to set your intention. But sometimes people get stuck right there and they don't really know, like, what is there? Maybe they're just trying to chill. Maybe they're not trying to think too much. And so sometimes I'll give them examples. I'll say, your intention could be today, I am strong. I am worthy. I am love. I am capable. And I think those I am, because again, it's not past tense. It's not future. It's right now. And so, and we're going to touch on this in the next episode with meditation and neuroplasticity. But when you, again, bouncing off what she was saying, the I am keeps everything in the present tense.
Yes. Very
And so
important.
I love the I am. And actually, another therapy, tidbit that really helped me was I was working with a meditation coach, and she told me to write these affirmations on a little Post-it and put it on my mirror in my bathroom because I see it every day. And so for a long time, I had 2 or 3 on there that said, I am worthy. I love myself. I am capable. I am strong. And though, when I didn't feel strong, when I would read those, they did
Good.
help. They got me through a lot of moments where, were hard.
And what that might be doing in that case, and many people have great experiences with simple affirmations like that. And I'm not saying there's anything wrong with that at all whatsoever. Many people I've spoken to can't get there.
Yeah.
They read it and they immediately think I'm lying to myself. It can't resonate. If it resonates with you, absolutely. Because what that's doing when you read it, it's like, it's reminding you of what you actually know to be true. And even if you've forgotten about it for a period of time and you haven't been operating from that truth, it's a reminder.
It is.
And in that moment, if you can get there, perfect.
And I can get there. Like I can flip the script.
Good.
Like I can be struggling and maybe be crying for a couple hours in the bed. And then I go to the bathroom and I read, I love myself, or I am worthy. That will completely do a paradigm shift in my mind. So for me, it's helpful. Like she said, not in anything we say is not going to help. It's not a one size fits all.
No.
Right. You have to find what works for you. And that's why I think our 2 points of view are so helpful.
Right. And then what happens too, like if you're the kind of person who needs to reach for the just next best feeling thought, well, what happens over time is that you're still going to get to the same destination.
Yeah.
Because you're going to get to the next best feeling thought. And the more you say it, and the more you say it, and the more you say it, and the more you believe it, and the more you operate from that next best feeling thought. Well, now all of a sudden, the next best feeling thought is within reach.
It's going to come.
And over time, you can get from my best example, I'm broken.
Yeah.
You can get from I'm broken to I am thriving with small increments. If you can take that big leap and somebody can just jump from here to there, good on them.
More power to you.
Yeah. Yeah.
Good on you.
But small
sister.
increments can work for many people who struggle with the alternative.
Absolutely. I love that. Oh, this is a good one, Melanie. I love this question. What's an example, Melanie, of a time when you consciously changed your internal story and saw a shift in your life?
I have a great, very recent example.
I want to hear. Have I heard this before?
Oh, yes.
Okay.
Oh, yeah. The most recent example for me is with my physical body. So 2 something years ago, after already having been in chronic pain for 8 years and being misdiagnosed and treatments that failed, we've talked about this already.
Yeah.
Lots of disappointment, a lot of frustration.
Yeah.
No better off after many years of treatments and therapies and practitioners. About 2 years ago, I saw somebody who looked at things from a little different perspective, ran some different tests, and diagnosed me with Lyme disease, chronic Lyme disease. In the moment, that diagnosis was it created incredible relief for me.
Just about to
because
say
everything that came before it was, we don't know what's wrong with you.
Yeah.
Well, that was incredibly
frustrating
and disturbing, and it left me with no hope. So getting this diagnosis of Lyme disease in the moment created a lot of relief for me.
I remember.
And then 2 years of Lyme treatment got me nowhere. Yeah. Now, it's not a wrong diagnosis. You can see right there on the test results. You can see right there. There were 6 different species of Borrelia and Bordetella. I mean, clearly there's a factor there. Clearly Lyme is part of the equation. But working on the physical body did nothing to help me feel better. It came to my attention relatively recently, I would say within the last 6 months, but really became clear as recently as December, January, that I had been operating in a fight or flight sympathetic overdrive hypervigilant nervous system state for
Mhm.
probably most of my life, but certainly this last decade of being in pain. Like, you can understand how that would put you
Of
in a
course.
fight or flight state. Not to mention the traumas over the years, the
For
sexual
sure.
assault and the losing of a child, and then just being in pain every single day
Mhm.
for a decade.
Mhm.
And it came to my attention that during that decade, when we opened the show today,
Mhm.
I talked about how I've had habits of thought in the past, and then there are things that happen in our life where you temporarily stop doing the good thing for you that has
Oh,
always
yeah.
worked in the past.
Oh,
Well,
yeah.
as I felt worse and worse and worse over the decade, I slid farther and farther down that emotional ladder. And I
Mhm.
got to the point where I stopped being deliberate and intentional with my thoughts. I stopped being intentional with my mindset.
Mhm.
And I was very much just in, ow, everything hurts. Ow, I'm broken. I can't live like this. I'm going to be in a wheelchair by the time I'm 60.
Mhm.
Just all of the telling the story of my disease to absolutely anybody who would sit still long enough to hear it.
Mhm.
I found myself using it as the perfect excuse to get out of things I didn't want to do.
Absolutely.
I
Absolutely.
found myself
Mhm.
complaining all the time. Every single morning, the second my eyes open, symptom scanning.
Mhm.
Basically doing all the wrong things, completely focusing at all times
Mhm.
on the condition, and then telling the story both to myself internally and to everyone else.
Mhm.
December, January, all of that changed. It became so clear to me that the life that I lived before all of this, where I was intentional with my mindset, was a freaking fabulous life, even despite some of the trauma that had happened. I lived in a perpetual state of holding on to the belief, and the story that I told was everything is always working out for me. Everything is always working out for me. No matter what happened, no matter what challenge showed up in my life, there was a good 10-year period of time there in my young adulthood where everything just always works out for me. And that was my operational point of view. I let go of all of that when I started not feeling good. In January, I realized this mistake, and I started shifting my focus again back to my mindset. I stopped complaining.
Mhm.
I stopped, other than this, like, this is for the purpose of this episode, I'm telling you guys a story, but I stopped telling the story. I
Mhm.
stopped telling the story of Lyme disease to myself and to everybody else.
Mhm.
I made a conscious effort when I woke up in the morning not to symptom scan. I would find that every time a thought would pop into my head that had to do with retelling the story, focusing on the symptoms, focusing on the problems, I would pattern interrupt. I'd catch myself doing it and go, I'm not going to do that. Shift my focus instead to something lighter,
Mhm.
something, one of these kinds of statements. Let's say I did get out of bed and I can tell my body hurt.
Mhm.
Today's a brand new day. I wonder what I could do today to keep myself focused on light. I wonder what I could, what would be lovely? Like, I wake up and my back hurts and I put my feet on the floor, and instead of focusing on the pain, I would say, wow, it's a beautiful sunshiny day out there.
Mhm.
I bet it would feel really good to go sit out in the sunshine today. And the more I started doing that, it took a little bit of struggle, because, again, it's a muscle that you have to build. So that muscle was very weak, and I had to build the muscle back up. But once I did,
Mhm.
and I was choosing my mindset differently every single day, you guys, I'm not kidding when I say 2 weeks. It took 2 weeks of deliberate, committed, disciplined choosing of my mindset and choosing to reach for the better feeling thought in every single moment, for my pain level that had been about an 8 out of 10 for a decade to drop down to about a 2.
Mhm.
And that was late January. And where are we at right now? Mid-March.
Mhm.
Are we in March? Yeah. Mid to late March.
Yes.
And it stayed at a
Almost
2.
April.
It has stayed at a 2. I have found that I can go outside and I can do really hard things in the garden that would have crippled me for weeks.
Mhm.
A very short time ago, 6 months ago, would have crippled me for weeks.
Mhm.
And I can go out and do it, and my symptoms might exacerbate a little bit, but I'm fine the next day.
Mhm.
The only thing that changed was my mindset. All of the addressing my physical body only for all of those years got me freaking nowhere,
Mhm.
but changing my mindset. has made a massive difference.
I love it. And doing the work, doing the internal work, doing the emotional work,
100%.
doing the nervous system work.
Mhm.
That's what, and I remember, actually, I don't know if you remember this. I remember us having this conversation on your couch a couple years ago when you first got diagnosed with Lyme disease, or maybe it was even before the diagnosis. I remember saying to you, or maybe I just thought it, I don't remember, but I remember saying, you know, Melanie, have you thought about doing any emotional work? Any like, you know, it can look any way. It can look like a therapist. It can look like a functional medicine doctor. But I remember having that conversation with you, but I don't think you were ready at the time. You weren't ready at the time.
No, and that's the thing.
You
That's
weren't.
the whole, you can't get there from there.
No.
That's exactly what that is.
Everybody can tell you, but until you're ready, right?
So true.
You're not going to. And so, but I could see it and I could feel it. And that's just because I've known her for so long and have had to witness all of her struggles and physical pain, which I can't resonate with that because I don't know what it's like to be in pain every day, all day. Like I know what it's like to be in emotional pain, but like physical, that's a whole different ballgame. So again, everybody's on their journey, right?
Yeah.
And real quickly, because we got a couple more questions, but for me, the internal story that I saw the hugest shift and the most recent, and I think I touched on this one time when we were talking in a couple episodes before, was when my therapist, I was talking about the sexual assault when I was 13, and I, had this victim mentality, and he's like, no, you're a survivor. You actually survived. And just the survivor mentality, the victim mentality, switching over to the survivor, huge weight lifted. I don't know if that's the right word I'm trying to articulate, but like just complete mind shift. Like, oh no, I'm not a victim. I actually survived. And that just, for me, that was a huge like turning point in my healing journey. So anyway, okay, coming back to the radio frequency analogy that you talked about at the beginning of our podcast today, how can someone start tuning their frequency to match what they actually want? Ooh, this is a good one.
I love it.
And this is good because
this is where we get to talk about tools, right?
Yes. Oh,
and
yes.
Of course, there's so many different ways to do that. And
this is going to be longer than we thought. Anyway,
well, we'll be okay. Talk fast.
But this is juicy.
It's juicy. I love it.
Yeah.
The most effective tools for me have been gratitude and what I call rampages of appreciation, which sound a little bit like the same thing. It's just they look a bit different. Gratitude it's magic. The frequencies of fear and gratitude cannot coexist. They're mutually exclusive. So if you are finding yourself operating from fear, from worry, from doubt, from all of the negative emotions on the scale, and you decide in this moment you are going to shift gears and start to focus on what you're grateful for, you cannot do both at the same time.
Absolutely.
Gratitude is according to Melanie, there is nothing more powerful in shifting your mindset and shifting your vibrational set point than gratitude.
Huge game changer.
And you can always find something to be grateful for, even in a moment where you're like, there's no way I can find a better feeling thought right now. You may not realize this, but when you know what you don't want, which is you'll know very clearly in any moment of struggle or challenge or trauma or whatever, when you know what you don't want, that gives you clarity about what you do want.
For sure.
That clarity is incredibly valuable. You can be grateful for that clarity. So even if you can't find anything else to attach to, and if you have the crappiest life, you don't have any people to lean on, you don't have anything that you can see or feel or smell or taste or touch that you can be genuinely grateful for, you can be grateful for the clarity provided by knowing what you don't want. Because when you know what you don't want, you know what you do want. And you can be grateful for that.
So what we're about to share here is what we both do, which is journal.
Yeah.
So this is like, it's the same thing. We're both going to read a journal entry from our journals, different dates. It really doesn't matter. But hers is more, mine is more of a prayer form, and hers is more of a like gratitude journal, or like the rampage of gratitude.
I call it a rampage of appreciation.
Yes.
I didn't come up with that. That is an Abraham Hicks tool, but it sure is fun. But go ahead, let's hear yours.
Okay, so this is mine. And like when I journal, and again, I've only had this prompt that I've used for the last like 6 months, but whenever I journal, it's, for me, what's most comforting is that God is talking to me. So basically, I'm asking God, and this is a good prompt that I start some of my journal entries with, but it says, God, every tear I shed is me releasing pain that allows me to get closer to you. What do you want me to see? And I can't take credit for that prompt. That was given to me by my therapist, an amazing therapist, Robbie. Shout out to you. So after that prompt, my letter, it's basically God talking to me. So it says, Gina, my dearest one, bask in the light of my goodness. See that I love you unconditionally. Your worries and anxieties are safe with me. Hand over your fears and worries. I want you to focus on your relationship with me. When you are weak, Gina, I am strong. I will hold you up and carry you through the fire and storms. You are safe with me. I'm so sorry that you felt so unsafe for so long. You were in a situation where your heart was not protected or taken care of. Only trust me to keep your heart and soul safe from now on. People will disappoint you and not follow through. Just trust in the one that always answers your prayers and who loves you unconditionally. Forgive yourself, Gina. Give yourself grace in this healing journey. I will guard your heart and protect it. I will carry your pain and burdens. Lay it all at my feet and I will comfort you. I love you, Gina. Your heart is safe with me forever. Ooh. I mean, I don't know if that hits anybody else like it hits me. It makes me emotional when I read it.
Can you read me the very first, in the first section there, what was the question that you asked?
God, every tear I shed is me releasing pain that allows me to get closer to you. What do you want me to see?
Okay, so here's why I absolutely love it.
Is that not great?
Love it. Part of the stories that we tell, maybe not part of it. That's Gary.
Gary, is that what you think about my journal entry?
Gary, this is not about you.
Yeah, don't appreciate that, Gary. What were you saying?
The stories we tell, the beliefs we hold, the points of views we take, the fixed points of views that we take are what keep us stuck or create freedom for us. The mere exercise of asking a question frees that energy up. Our fixed points of views lock us down. Asking a question opens the energy up and gets things moving again. It's open-ended. And then what happened? You downloaded from source
exactly how it
everything
felt.
you needed to hear to feel comfort. And what did that comfort do? Brought you up the emotional ladder.
And I can't tell you, those words came out. I mean, I couldn't write fast enough.
Yeah.
It's like once I asked the question, like you said, that conduit was that energy field was completely open.
It creates a willingness in you to receive new information, to change what is, to start understanding and aligning with something different. And when you open that up,
that's exactly what happens. And so I love that prompt and the question. And so anyway, that
questions open the door to possibilities.
So what does your journal entries say, Melanie? Let's see how ours are different.
My style's different.
Of course, it's okay.
This is what's referred to as a rampage of appreciation, and what it is about. It's about generating a flow. You start out, sometimes it starts out a little bit slow and it takes a minute to get the momentum going, but you start out recognizing things that you have to be appreciative of. And you touched on this earlier, present moment, right?
Absolutely.
Tell me, go back and say what you said about when you were talking about the affirmations in the yoga studio and how it has to be present moment.
Because I am puts you in the present moment.
Yes.
When you say I am, you're not 5 minutes from from now. You're not in the future. You're saying I
Yes.
am, and that is keeping you right there. And that's where we want to keep people.
And exactly.
We're in yoga meditation.
Well said.
Yeah.
So you're claiming, owning, and acknowledging this thing that you have to be grateful for, this thing that you can take within you as an empowerment tool.
Yes.
To bring you up that emotional ladder.
Yes.
To raise your vibrational
Yep.
state. And that's what this is all about. And again,
And a bunch of I ams.
oh yeah, I'm not going to.
Oh, you're not going to read that.
I was going to read over here.
Okay, sorry.
But
you like the I ams too. Look at you.
I do love the I am.
Okay.
So,
I love it.
so this is what my rampages of appreciation sounded like earlier in the month.
Okay.
Right?
Earlier in March.
Today is a beautiful day. And I really capitalize and underline and bold things. Today is a beautiful day. I like knowing that I am less and less inclined to people please at the expense of my own well-being. Obviously, you can tell what I was working on at this stage. I like knowing that as I step more and more into my true self and greater versions of me, that I worry less and less about what other people think of me and develop greater and greater confidence and peace with myself. I really love this new path that I'm on. I love the feeling of alignment. I love feeling in alignment with purpose and passion. I love knowing that healing myself and facilitating healing for others can happen simultaneously and while having fun. It's exciting to know that my new career can be fun, easy, joyful, fulfilling, rewarding, wealth generating, inspiring, and healing for me and Gina and for our audience. I really, really love it when my job doesn't feel like work. I especially love getting paid to do what I love. We're not getting paid yet.
No.
But I love getting paid to do what I love.
But
it's a fact.
We're manifesting.
It is an accurate statement.
Mm-hmm.
I love knowing that this is my new point of attraction. I love knowing that from my new vantage point, I can ask for something greater than ever before. I love that the asking is already accomplished, and by means of my lining up with it, my choosing my mindset and my state of alignment, it will be. Indeed, it already is. I can feel how expansive my life has become. I can feel fulfilled. I feel eager and excited. I feel anticipatory of the health and happiness my profound asking has created. I love this delicious life. I'm excited about what is going to unfold. It will be so fun to get to experience every moment of surprise and delight as each aspect of my creation manifests into physical form. I am satisfied with what is and eager for more. Everything is always working out for me.
Love it.
And so what's important to know about that is that at that time when I did that rampage, I had been feeling a bit down about myself. I had been judging myself. I was worried about how I was being perceived by others. And I started that rampage out, and it starts out a little slow and a little crunchy. You're sort of like, where am I going with this? And then that ball gets rolling.
Yeah.
And again, it's a muscle that has to be built. I've been doing these rampages for a very long time. Sometimes what comes out is something that is contradictory in the right direction to how you have been being previously. But when it comes out, you can recognize, okay, this is actually the truth. And now that I'm choosing it and I'm writing it and I speak them out loud too. After I finish writing it, I go through and I read it just like I read it, pulling in the emotion of it. You felt the emotion of it while I was speaking it. Yes,
for sure.
That's an important aspect of it, because when you embody the emotion of it, you're not just going through the motions, you are pulling in, you are tuning your frequency, you are tuning your vibration to it. And we're going to touch more on this in the next episode with the neurophysiological aspect of all of this. But you're also, because you're bringing in that emotion, you are rewiring and retraining your brain to this new thought pattern. The more you do it, the easier it becomes.
For sure.
It becomes your default state of being and your new habits of thought.
I love it. I love it. And I love that we are both open enough to being vulnerable to reading our journal entries, because honestly, I didn't think I would ever do that, but here we are. So I love it.
Stranger things have happened.
Yes. Melanie, do we have time for one or two more questions? What do you think?
How are we doing on time? Oh, I'd say, I think we got time for two. I think these are short.
Let's try. How do we deal with old stories creeping back in? And what about when we have external validation of our limiting belief stories, like, but this always happens to me, or look at the proof? How do you break free from that cycle? And I think we've touched on this a little bit.
Yeah, I
but
think it
do you
just
wanna
comes down to
elaborate?
number one, start being aware of the thoughts you're thinking and the stories you're telling. And then I think in most people's cases, especially when you do have that external validation of the way things are, just reach for the next, just add the qualifier at the end. Again, we can acknowledge what is and then add the qualifier. But I'm working on it.
Yeah.
But I know that I am in that healing process. I'm unclear of what to do. Yes. But I know clarity will come. Add the qualifier because it can still be true.
Yeah.
There's nothing untrue about any of that.
I love that. Okay. Last question. What's a challenge that we can offer our listeners to start putting this into practice today? Like something simple, something little that if somebody's never heard about mindset or, meditation or reprogramming, like what's something simple that people that are listening can start putting into practice today? What would be something?
I hate to beat a dead horse, but just start paying attention.
That's what I said.
Right. Here's how I've heard it said before. It's a little abrasive, but here's how I've heard it said before. Stop being sloppy with your thinking. Sloppy with your thinking means you just think things and you just say things and you just do things out of default, out of habit, without actually considering how those thoughts and how those words and how that mindset is perpetuating the situation that you're in. So start paying attention. Start considering the effect that those thoughts and words are having. Start challenging yourself in it, and perhaps even journal. That's a good tool that some people that has worked very well for some people. When you catch yourself thinking a habitual thought or telling the same story over and over again, write it down. Write it down to acknowledge it, and then start to think, what if I were to reach for the next best feeling thought? What would it be?
Or the opposite thought of what I'm saying.
Or 180 degrees.
Opposite.
Sure.
You could, I say, oh, that's so stupid or whatever. Well, you could flip that 180 and say, no, I'm smart. Actually, I'm really smart, and I'm really, good with my words. And so anyway, flipping it over also can be helpful. The other thing that I was going to piggyback on that, and we're going to wrap this up for today. I think this has been such a helpful, interesting conversation we've had today. And I think it'll open a lot of people's eyes, and I hope we get a lot of conversation. Please remember to comment on what you're hearing. But dang it, I lost it. What was I going to say? Oh, when those feelings come up, when we were saying, like, she's saying journal, and I would even, if you're not where you can journal, if you're in the car and you're, those thoughts, again, you're paying attention to your internal dialogue. What are you saying? I think it's okay too to sit with those feelings, to sit with those uncomfortable thoughts, sit with them, let them flow through you. I think we're all so reactive. We all are so reactive. And I think the more, I know for me and my personal struggles, I think what I've learned the hard way is to not respond and to not, there doesn't have to be a response to everything that comes in, meaning
a reaction.
You don't have to react to the story you're telling yourself. You don't have to react to the story somebody's telling you about yourself. You can just sit with those feelings, and it might be uncomfortable, and that's okay. A lot of people try to numb out the uncomfortable feelings that come up with trauma or with anything, triggers, anything that's got you in a tizzy. Most people just want to, get high or take a drink or, do drugs or porn or sex. It's something to numb, but I just encourage everybody to sit with it and just sit there and be with that feeling. If it's uncomfortable, if it's hard, if it feels weird, it's okay. The good thing about feelings is that they pass.
Yeah.
And
I think I've read that it's 90 seconds. That most feelings only last 90 seconds unless
sometimes mine lasts longer.
Well, that's why, because here's the caveat. Most feelings will pass within 90 seconds unless you latch onto it and allow the narrative.
Okay, that's what I do. That's what I do. That's why it stays longer. But just sitting with it. And again, we're going to get into this some more in another episode, but just my encouragement to you, everybody who's listening, is just sit with those uncomfortable emotions. It's not going to kill you. You're going to be okay. You're going to survive. Sit with it, find out where it's coming from. And then, like Melanie said, journal about it, write a few words. Or if you don't have a journal, that's fine. I'll buy you one. If you don't, put it in your phone, like put it in your notes. Like, and sometimes when I write a nasty text, isn't it great to like go write it in the notes first? And like before you send it, because maybe if you sit on it for a night, you may not want to send it. Like, you know what I mean?
Sometimes you just need to get it out.
Yeah. Just get it out. So again,
I know we're running out of time. I want to
Yes.
add one thing because it just popped into my head. Our whole show premise is about looking for the gifts and the opportunities and the blessings in every single trauma, every challenging situation, every situation that comes up that triggers you and you react to. It's about looking for the blessing in that. And if we're talking about something that we can offer as a challenge for you to put into practice, is when you feel triggered by something comes up that you're having an emotional reaction to, it's because there's something within you that is in total alignment with this experience. And the experience that's showing up is the perfect opportunity for you to actually reflect on, why am I getting triggered by this? What pain, what unhealed wound within me is coming up perfectly from this experience for me to finally look at it, for me to finally address it. It's perfect experience, the perfect opportunity to take a look at this thing and begin healing it instead of shoving it away,
pushing it,
numbing it out, self-soothing it so that I don't have to think about it. Why do you want to carry that shit around for the rest of your life? Or do you want to release it and heal it? And every one of these opportunities that pops up that triggers you is a chance to do that.
It is, because it's really a mirror. It's really a mirror. It's really a chance for you to look at yourself. You know, somebody says something triggered you. You're like, that person is so mean. That person's such a bitch or whatever. No. Like, turn it around. Turn it around. What is it about me that's making me get so triggered?
If you can be triggered by it, it's because there's something within you that is being triggered.
Correct.
And it's a wound that needs to heal.
Yeah. So take accountability, people. Yeah. For your own emotions.
Challenge.
There's your challenge.
I think we went a little bit over, but only by 2 minutes. All right, everybody. Thank you so much for being here with us. We hope you enjoyed this episode. Yes. Guys, if you're enjoying this show and you want to support us here on episode 6, we're just little baby podcasters getting started. If you want to support us on our journey, the very best way to do that is to whatever platform you're on, like, follow, subscribe, and please share with your friends. That is the best way to support us. And we keep saying it, we'd love to hear your comments. We really, really do. We go and look for the comments.
Feedback. We need feedback.
But also just your commentary. Jump in and join with us. And we put in these episode descriptions all of our socials links. So, you know, a lot of these platforms, we can't reply directly to your comment, but we want to. So if you will come on to our socials, Facebook, Instagram, X, TikTok. If you'll come on there and engage with us there, it will literally make our day.
Yeah.
And we would love to connect with you there. So like, follow, subscribe, share, and please give us a comment or two, because we want to connect with you. We literally pray before every episode about connecting with you.
We do.
So thank you so much. We love you all.
Love you.
See you next time.
Bye.